तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ते पूरिता जनाः. O Lord, your words, like sweet nectar, refresh the afflicted. Your words, which poets have sung in verses, vanquish the sins of the worldly. Blessed are they who hear of you, and blessed indeed are they who speak of you. How great is their reward. Today we will be reading from the Gospel, chapter 17, Thursday, December 27, 1883. M. the recorder has been staying with Sri Ramakrishna from 14th of December. He had been staying there doing intense spiritual practices, just as according to Sri Ramakrishna's directions, whatever Sri Ramakrishna is asking him to do, he is doing, spending most of the time in the different parts of the temple garden. So this morning, 27th December, Thursday, the temple garden was filled with sweet music of the dawn service, which mingled with morning melody from the Nahabat. Leaving his bed, Sri Ramakrishna chanted the names of gods in sweet tones. Then he bowed before the pictures of the different deities in his room and went to the west porch to salute the Ganges. Some of the devotees who had spent the night at the temple garden came to the master's room and bowed before him. Rakhal was staying with the master, and Baburam had come the previous evening. M had been staying for 2 weeks, now already 2 weeks over. Sri Ramakrishna said to M, I have been invited to Ishan's this morning. Baburam will accompany, and you too. M made ready to go with the master. Sri Ramakrishna is invited by devotees in Calcutta now and then to visit them, and often they organize like a festival. They get a musician and get all the other devotees, inform the other devotees, they all come, and they will have a mini festival, you can say, with singing and dance. Sometimes, depending upon the mood, Sri Ramakrishna will be dancing. So today he is taking M also. Sri Ramakrishna always took somebody with him, because now and then if he goes into excess, into trance, he needs somebody who to look after the body so that he won't fall down. But he can't, in that state, he cannot bear the touch of everybody. So it has to be a really pure-minded person. Now today he's taking Baburam with him. Baburam, who later became Swami Premananda. At 8 o'clock, the carriage hired for the master stood waiting in front of the Nahabat. On all sides, the plants and trees were in flower, and the river sparkled in the sunlight of the bright winter's day. The master bowed once more before the pictures. Then, still chanting the name of the Divine Mother, he got into the carriage, followed by M and Baburam. See, before leaving, Sri Ramakrishna chants the name and bow down before the pictures, as though telling them, take the Divine Mother and other deities where he is going. And then chanting the name of the Divine Mother, he got into the carriage, followed by M and Baburam. The devotees took with them Sri Ramakrishna's woolen shawl, woolen cap, and small bag of spices, which he now and then used to chew. Sri Ramakrishna was very happy during the trip and enjoyed it like a child. About 9 o'clock, the carriage stopped at the door of Ishan's house. Ishan Mukhopadhyaya is a devotee, and he is very particular about his rituals. his spiritual practices and observances. So another place Yam says Ishan is a great ritualist. Ishan and his relatives greeted the master and led him to the parlor on the first floor. Shrish, Ishan's son, was introduced to Sri Ramakrishna. The young man practiced law at Alipur. He had been a brilliant student, having stood first in 2 of the university examinations. But he was extremely modest. Very brilliant student. Now he is working as a lawyer, but he is very modest. Master to Shrish, what is your profession? Shrish, I am practicing law at Alipur. Master to Yam, for such a man to be a lawyer? He's expressing surprise. Such a good person becoming a lawyer, because lawyers, the profession of the lawyer involves telling lies to save their clients, to make the client win the case. They have to tell lies. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying, for such a man to be a lawyer. Well, have you any questions to ask? See, it's a custom that when holy people come, when you go to holy people, when you meet holy people, you ask some questions so that they will give you instructions, or they talk about higher things. Often they may not talk if you sit quietly, if you don't ask. So we have to probe them. We ask questions. So it's a normal custom. If you meet a holy person, you ask some questions. Even if it is something we know, but still we ask so that we'll get better understanding, another viewpoint. So Sri Ramakrishna is asking, have you any questions to ask? Then he himself says, perhaps you want to know how to live unattached in the world. Isn't it so? He's a person living in the world, he's working. So perhaps you want to know how to live unattached. Then Shrish puts a question. Shrish, under the pressure of duties, people do many unrighteous things in the world. Further, some are engaged in good work, some in evil. Is this due to their actions in the previous birth? Is that why they act this way? Under the pressure of duties, people do many unrighteous things in the world. People do many evil deeds. Now, why? That's a question Shrish is asking. And also, some people do good things, some people do evil deeds. Is it due to the previous actions in the previous birth? Why is it some people do good things and why some do doing evil deeds? The master, how long should a man perform his duties? As long as he has not attained God. Duties drop away after the realization of God. Then one goes beyond good and evil. The flower drops off as soon as the fruit appears. The flower serves the purpose of begetting the fruit. How long should a devotee perform daily devotion such as Sandhya? As long as his hair does not stand on end and his eyes does not shed tears at the name of God. These things indicate that the devotee has realized God. From these, one knows that he has attained pure love for God. Realizing God, one goes beyond virtue and vice. Now the question is, why do people do evil deeds? Why do people, while doing duties, why do people perform unrighteous actions? Now, even if you know intellectually what is right and what is wrong, it may not help us to actually put that into practice. We may know what is right and what is wrong, what is to be done, what is to be avoided. But in actual practice, we are not able to follow that because we are forced by the tendencies, by our past tendencies to act in certain ways. So St. Paul says, man does that which he does not like to do. and cannot do what he wants to do. We are forced to. We are forced to go in certain way. We may want to do certain things, but we are not able to do it. We want to avoid certain things, but we are forced to do it. Why? Because we are slaves of the mind. Arjuna puts this question to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. He asks, why do people commit crime? As though, even against their wish, as the forced. So Sri Krishna gives the answer there by saying that it is because kama and krodha. Kama is insatiable desire and krodha is anger. When insatiable desire is obstructed, opposed, then it becomes anger. And that anger, because it is not under control, it's not regulated, that desire and anger, it becomes destructive. Both karma and krodha has got a place in our life. We need desire. To progress in life, we need desire. If you don't have desire, you'll be just like a piece of log, completely immersed in tamas inertia. We need desire to improve our lot in the world, and also in spiritual life. We need desire, and we need anger also. If you see some injustice being done, we have to protest. We have to get angry, but this should be under our control. This should be under. We must be disciplined. Must be regulated through ethical and moral values. And we have to see that our desire and anger does not go beyond a certain limit. There must be within limit. We must be able to control it. But it is because of this uncontrolled desire and anger that people commit crime. But all this is mostly in the name of duty. That's what Sri was asking. Why do people perform evil deeds in the name of duty, in the pressure of duty? Now, what is duty? Duty changes from time to time, according to circumstances, situation, culture, the state of life, or social condition. So we cannot give a cut and right answer. This is the duty. No, you cannot say it changes. Duty changes from time to time, depending upon the circumstances, the situation, social condition, our heredity, and also the culture of where we grew up. All this decide what our duty is. So Swamiji says to give an objective definition of duty is entirely impossible. Yet there is duty from the subjective stand. And what is that? Any action that makes us go Godward is a good action and is our duty. Any action that makes us go downward is evil and is not our duty. So this is how we decide what's our duty. Any action that takes us Godward is our duty, and any action that takes us downward, away from God, is not our duty, it should not be done. But often we act for selfish purposes and don't want to accept it. Accept the fact that we are acting for selfish purpose to meet our self-interest, and we give the big name of duty. It's duty. Why are you doing this? It's my duty. So Swamiji again says, duty becomes a disease with us. It drags us forward. We go on doing things and say, it's our duty. It's just to cover up the fact that we are attached to the particular thing. We are doing that to serve our selfish purpose, but we say it's our duty. So that's why he says duty becomes a disease with us. Only when there's non-attachment. If we can perform actions without attachment, then we can perform duty properly. As long as there is attachment, duty becomes a slavery. And to get us out of this delusion that whatever we are doing is duty, and just to get out of the delusion that we are doing duty, well, by actually it is their attachment. Swamiji used really sharp words. He says how easy it is to interpret slavery as duty. It's actually slavery, and we interpret it as duty. The morbid attachment of flesh to flesh as duty. Men go out into the world and struggle and fight for money or any other thing to which they get attached. Ask them why they do it. They say it's a duty. It is the absurd greed for gold and gain, and they try to cover it with a few flowers. It's our attachment. It's our attachment to people, wealth, position, power, and then we use the high-sounding word, it's a duty. But work, if you can do without attachment, then it is duty. Whatever work, if it is done with attachment to people or power or position, can never be duty in the real sense, however great or noble the work may be. We may say it's a great noble, it's a good work, it's a noble work, but if it is done with attachment, then it is not duty in the real sense. So that's why Swami Nikhilananda says attachment should never be given the name of duty, or else it may be. Never give the name duty. Say it is duty while it is attachment. So how are we to perform the duty then? We all have got duty. Everybody has got duty. Do it without attachment. And for that, keep the thought of God in and through everything that you do. Then we will be able to escape from the onslaughts of the world. Otherwise, we'll be taken away by the world. And how long we have to do the duty? Till whatever duties you have to do, there's a time when duty comes to an end, when you go beyond duties, when you realize God. The aim of all these things that we do, the duties that we perform, is just to become detached, to purify our mind. When we do action without attachment, that purifies the mind, and slowly we come closer to God and realize God. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, how long should a man perform his duties? As long as he has not attained God. Once you realize God, once you attain God, the duties fall off. You don't have to forcibly stop. It falls off by itself. Duties drop away after the realization of God. Then one goes beyond good and evil. One example Sri Ramakrishna gives is when the branches of the palm tree dries, it falls off. It just leaves a mark, that's all. But you don't have to pull it down. If you pull out the green branch, the sap may harm the tree, but once it's dry, it drops off by itself. So in the same way, duties, you don't have to forcibly take it away. Go on doing your duty, whatever you have to do, without attachment, holding on to God. Then slowly, as you progress towards God, your duties become less and less. He says, once I am asked, how should I lessen my duties? You don't have to do anything forcibly. You go forward towards God, pray to God to lessen the duty, and whatever is to be done, pray that you may be able to do it without attachment. Duties drop away after the realization of God. Then one goes beyond good and evil. The flower drops off as soon as the fruit appears. The flower serves the purpose of begetting the fruit. Once the fruit comes, then the purpose of the flower is fulfilled. It drops off. There is no more need for the flower to be there. How long should a devotee perform daily devotion such as Sandhya? Even the devotees, how long should they do the regular practices, spiritual practices? As long as his hair does not stand on end and his eyes does not shed tears at the name of God. These things indicate that the devotee has realized God. Then even the devotee doesn't have to perform the regular spiritual practices they are doing, not to speak of the worldly duties. Realizing God, one goes beyond virtue and vice. The more you advance toward God, the less He will give you worldly duties to perform. So you don't have to forcibly try to stop the duties, just go towards God. The more you advance towards God, the less He will give you worldly duties to perform. Now she's making another comment. It is extremely difficult to proceed towards God while leading the life of a household. It's a common idea or recurring theme that we see. It's extremely difficult to proceed towards God while leading the life of a householder. Master, why so? What about the yoga of practice? At Kamarpur, I have seen the women of the carpenter families selling flattened rice. Let me tell you how alert they are while doing their business. The pestle of the husking machine that flattens the paddy constantly falls into the hole of the mortar. The woman turns the paddy in the hole with one hand, and with the other holds her baby on her lap as she nurses it. In the meantime, customers arrive. The machine goes on pounding the paddy, and she carries on her bargain with the customers. She says to them, "Pay the few pennies you owe me before you take any more." You see, she has all these things to do at the same time. Nurse the baby, turn the paddy as the pestle pounds it, take the flattened rice out of the hole, and talk to the buyers. This is called the yoga of practice. 15 parts of her mind out of 16 are fixed on the pestle of the husking machine, lest it should pound her hand. With only one part of her mind, she nurses the baby and talks to the buyers. Likewise, he who leads the life of a householder should devote 15 parts of his mind to God. Otherwise, he will face ruin and fall into the clutches of death. He should perform the duties of the world with only one part of his mind. Now, it applies to everybody here. How to think of God or practice spiritual discipline while you are leading the life of a householder. It's extremely difficult. The master, why so? What about the yoga of practice? Yoga of practice. Practice is one thing we see in every spiritual text. Practice. Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna told Sri Krishna, "Oh, it's very difficult to control the mind." Sri Krishna said, Abhyasa and Vairagya, dispassion and practice. Patanjali says, dispassion and practice. Sri Ramakrishna says, dispassion and practice. Without these two things, we cannot progress in spiritual life. And with these two, dispassion and practice, you can really progress. There's no doubt about it. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras describes or defines practice as abhyasa, dirghakala nairantarya satkara sevido dridhabhumihi. The practice becomes firmly grounded when it has been cultivated for a long time, uninterruptedly, and with earnest devotion. So, practice to become established in practice of anything, you have to have three conditions. It should be done for a long time. Then it should be uninterruptedly done. And then with earnest devotion. So success in any endeavor depends upon these three conditions. If you fulfill these three, practice with these three conditions, then we are sure to succeed in that endeavor. People start with great enthusiasm. Sometimes any effort, not just spiritual practices. Say, especially during the last year with the COVID lockup, people started many new things, learning new things. So in the beginning, it's all enthusiasm. As soon as the restrictions are eased, life is back to normal, the enthusiasm waned. And all those what we started practicing, it's all left. I don't do. We had to persevere. Because many will start with enthusiasm, but only few persevere, and still few get success. That's why in the Gita, Sri Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit etadisiddhaye. Among thousands, a few may strive for perfection. And among those who strive, perhaps a few may attain success, reach the goal. So it's very difficult in any field, in sports, arts, studies, anything, whatever you take. You have to do practice for a long time. And just starting and stopping won't do. You have to persevere. And about spiritual practices, Swami Brahmananda says this warning. You will suffer reactions if you practice long hours out of momentary enthusiasm. In the beginning, you have taken up spiritual practices. In the beginning, enthusiasm, great enthusiasm. Let me practice meditation for 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day. Then he says, you will suffer reactions. If you practice long hours out of momentary enthusiasm, if this reaction happens, the mind will go to the bottom plane. Depression will come, and suddenly you will have no more inclination for japam and meditation. You are doing so much that suddenly you get the reaction, you don't feel like doing anything at all. It's an arduous task to raise the depressed mind and turn it back again to spiritual practices. So go slowly, but continuously, don't stop. Often people give up the practice completely if you don't get any results after a short time, or just keep up the practice for the sake of name, external forms, because they expect quick results. Then there's no result. Have practiced for some time, so no result. What's the point of continuing? Let me stop. Then take something else, some other discipline. Now you have to persevere in whatever you're taking. In spite of failures, you have to continue. And don't make failures as an excuse to give up the struggle, because failure becomes a failure only when we stop trying. If we continue and striving, then failure is not a failure. You become stronger and you will be going forward. But if you stop trying, then it's a failure. And you have to practice for a long time, especially in spiritual life. Why? What is the need for long practice? Because we have to bring about a change in our character. We have to replace the bad tendencies and impressions with good tendencies and impressions. So we need to bring in good impressions and tendencies, slowly push out the old bad ones. So it needs long time. Now, how long? How long should we practice? People often ask, how long should we practice? That depends upon many factors, like the stage how in our progress of spiritual evolution, the efforts that we have done in the previous lives and also in this life, how much effort you are putting in. If you are really earnest, then you won't worry about how long you have to practice. Your aim only will be to practice because you know the results will come. I remember the story that Sri Ramakrishna speaks about the two yogis. Two yogis were doing spiritual practices, and Narada the divine sage happened to go along that way, and one of them asked where Narada was going. Narada said, I'm going to Vaikuntha, the abode of Vishnu. Or will you ask him when I'll have self-realization? Narada said, yes, I will do. Then after some time, he found another yogi. He also said the same thing. Will you ask him when I'll have God realization? Narada agreed, and after a long time, Narada came back along the way, and the first yogi asked, Did you remember to ask the Lord when I will have God realization? He said, yes, I asked, and the Lord said, you have to have 4 more births. After four births, you will have realization. Then he started complaining, I have been doing spiritual practice for so long, and still another 4 births I have to wait. Then Narada proceeded and came to second yogi. He also asked the same thing. Did you ask the Lord? Yes. The Lord said that you will have self-realization, God realization after as many births as there are leaves on the tamarind tree. Tamarind leaves are so small. And the tree, the number of leaves on one tree may be million or more than that. And so you'll have realization after so many births. And the yogi started jumping in joy. I will have realization. God has remembered me. And the story goes, Sri Ramakrishna says, he heard a voice, my child, you have realization now itself. If you must be ready. You don't bother how long you have to do the spiritual practices. You just do. In time, it will happen. Then it has to be uninterrupted. Interruption, you start and stop. It's just a waste of time and energy. Whatever you have done, your time of waste of time and energy and going back, sliding back. So again, you have to go along the path which you have traveled already. So, even in ordinary life, even in the worldly, secular things, if there is interruption, you can't progress fast. Say you are taking a sports event or even exercise for keeping yourself fit. You do some exercise for a few days and then don't do anything for a month or 2 months. That won't do. You have to do uninterruptedly every day. And the third one is an attitude of devotion and reverence. It is not enough if you take up any of these spiritual practices, one of the hobbies that you do. Or my friends are going to this or going this yoga meditation lesson or meditation session. Let me also go. Just another hobby, another curiosity. That won't do. Even in worldly pursuit, you have to practice with earnestness. Devotion. Devotion means earnestness and intensity to achieve excellence. And spiritual attainment being the highest, an attitude of reverence reminds us that this is the highest goal that we are striving for. Only then we'll reach it. But with these 3 conditions, practice becomes established. You become established in practice. And with the practice, you will be able to go forward. Whatever be your station in life, whether you're a householder or an ascetic. you're spending all your time in spiritual practices, or you're doing your worldly duties, and as a householder, you have to have this practice, the yoga of practice. That's why Sri Krishna says, why so? What about the yoga of practice? And he gives the example, ordinary example of a person because Sri Ramakrishna has observed this village life in Kamarpukur. He's giving the example. The women making flattened rice. The pestle is falling in the of the husking machine, falls on the paddy and flatten. In that, now and then the person had to change the position of the paddies, mix it with the hand, and at the same time nurse holding the baby and nursing it. Customers come to sell, take the money, give the paddy. But all the time, her attention is on the pestle of the husking machine, because if she is not careful, it will fall on her hand and her hand will be crushed. So the 3/4 of the mind, Sri Ramakrishna says 15 part of the mind of out of 16 is on the pestle of the machine, so that it won't hit the hand. With one part of the mind, 1/16 of the mind, she is doing all these rest of the things, changing the paddy or removing and putting in fresh ones, nursing the baby, dealing with the customers, all that. Likewise, he who leads the life of a householder should devote 15 parts of the mind to God. Hold on to God with one hand. Otherwise, he will face ruin and fall into the clutches of death. He should perform the duties of the world with only one part of the mind. Do all the duties, but that is enough. We say, how can that be? We always do. We don't ordinary many things we do almost automatically. We don't need full concentration. Things which you have been doing, we can do with a very small part, giving very little attention. We can do it perfectly because of the habit we have been doing it day after day. Now we speak of being multitasking. We do 2-3 things at the same time. We can. The mind has got power to do that. So hold on to God with the greater part of your mind and do the duty with the rest. A man may lead the life of a householder after attaining God, after attaining knowledge, but he must attain knowledge first. A man may lead the life of a householder after attaining knowledge, but he must attain knowledge first. First getting knowledge of God and then lead the life of a householder. There's no harm. He gives an example for that. If the milk of the mind is kept in the water of the world, they get mixed. Therefore, he should turn the milk into curd and extract butter from it by churning it in solitude. Then he may keep the butter in water of the world. Therefore, you see, spiritual discipline is necessary. When the Ashwatha tree, the people tree, is a mere sapling, it must be enclosed by a fence, otherwise the cattle may eat it. But the fence may be taken away when the trunk grows thick and strong. Then even an elephant tied to the tree cannot harm it. First, attain knowledge of God, then live in the world. Sri Ramakrishna is not asking everybody to leave the world and go and becoming ascetics. No, live in the world, but first get knowledge of God so that you won't be drowned by the world. So that another saying is, let the boat be in the water, let not the water be in the boat. If first you attain knowledge of God and then you enter the worldly life, you will be like the boat in the water. Otherwise, the water will be in the boat, and then what happens? The boat will sink. And an example he gives is, if milk and water is kept, They will mix together. But you cannot separate the milk from the water. You turn the milk, get butter from the milk, turn it into yogurt, then churn it, get the butter, and then the butter will float in the water. It won't get mixed. The butter and water will always remain separate. It won't be mixed. But for that, you have to sit quietly and churn the yogurt in solid. Without, if you disturb too much, it won't set, the milk won't set into yogurt, and you cannot get butter also from that. So you need to sit quietly in a corner and do it. Sit quietly and do it. It's solitude. Therefore, you see, spiritual discipline is necessary. That's only in the beginning. Once you become strong, then there is no more. You can do anything. So get the knowledge of God and then enter the world. That is what happened in the early days in olden times in Hinduism. They had the 4 stages of life. The first stage of brahmacharya, student life, for the first till the age of 24, the person lived with the teacher, learned everything, study secular and spiritual knowledge, established in the virtues of righteousness, and then come and enter the world, become a householder, because already established in dharma, got all the values, got knowledge of God, and then you come and live as a householder. You won't be drowned by the world, by Maya. When the tree is a sapling, you have to fence it around. Otherwise, the cattle may eat it. We do it in Robertson Dharma. We put, otherwise not the cattle, the kangaroos the wallabies may come and eat it. But once they become big, then you don't need the fence anymore. You remove that. But the fence may be taken away when the trunk grows thick and strong. Then even an elephant tied to the trunk cannot harm it. Therefore, at the beginning, the spiritual aspirant should go into solitude now and then. Spiritual discipline is necessary. You want to eat rice? Suppose you sit down somewhere and say, wood contains fire and fire cooks rice. Can saying it cook rice? You sit quietly in a corner and say, oh, there is fire in the wood and the fire can cook rice. And you put some rice in a pot and say this, the rice won't get cooked. So saying that won't do, or reading books won't do. You have to practice. Can saying it cook the rice? You must get 2 pieces of wood and by rubbing them together, bring out the fire. That was the early practices. There is one particular type of wood called arani, which you rub together and fire comes out, sparks come out, and that's how they start the fire. You may learn a great deal from books, but it is all futile if you have no love for God and no desire to realize Him. You learn from books. You learn a lot, but you become a scholar. You may become a great philosopher. You don't realize God. It's all useless unless you have love for God or desire to realize Him. A mere pundit, scholar, without discrimination and renunciation, has his attention fixed on woman and gold. The vulture soars very high, but its eyes are fixed on the charnel pit. Sri Ramakrishna compares scholars with book knowledge, but if they have without any discrimination or dispassion to vultures. Vultures go very high up in the sky. That doesn't mean they are really high because their eyes are fixed on the dead bodies on the ground, where all they're searching for the dead bodies on the earth. So if the scholar is just book knowledge, has got a lot of book knowledge, that's not going to help in any way unless they are really devoted to God. The book knowledge will give the scholar a lot of money, become a position, or well, that's all, but not God realization. That alone is knowledge through which one is able to know God. All else is futile. Well, what is your idea about God? Sri Ramakrishna is asking Srish. What is your idea about God? Now, if you ask two people, we got two different ideas. Everybody has got his or her own idea of God because we actually don't know what God is. What we read from the books and what we reason out, it's all ideas of a God. Well, that changes from person to person. So Sri Ramakrishna is asking, what is your idea of God? Shrish. Sir, I feel that there is an all-knowing person. We get an indication of his knowledge by looking at his creation. So for Shrish, God is an all-knowing person. And he says, we get an indication of his knowledge by looking at the creation. Let me give you an illustration. God has made devices to keep fish and other aquatic animals alive in cold regions. As water grows colder, it gradually shrinks. But the amazing thing is that just before turning into ice, the water becomes light and expands. In the freezing cold, fish can easily live in the water of the lake. The surface of the lake may be frozen, but the water below is all liquid. If a very cold breeze blows, it is obstructed by the ice. The water below remains warm. So he is giving an example how in very cold regions, aquatic fish and other aquatic animals survive the cold weather. The top layer of the water becomes frozen, becomes ice, but underneath there is water still. Master. That God exists may be known by looking at the universe. But it is one thing to hear of God, another thing to see God, and still another thing to talk to God. Some have heard of milk, some have seen it, and some again have tasted it. You feel happy when you see milk. You are nourished and strengthened when you drink it. You will get peace of mind only when you have seen God. You will enjoy bliss and gain strength only when you have talked to Him. See, Srish gave an example that God is an all-knowing person, and His knowledge, and the fact of His knowledge that we can understand by looking at His creation. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that God exists may be known by looking at the universe. But it is one thing to hear of God, another thing to see God, and still another thing to talk to God. We hear about God. We haven't reached the stage of seeing God, not to speak of talking to God. But hearing about God is all right. Seeing God is much better. But seeing God is not enough. You talk to God intimately. Then you come to know really what God is. So how it goes step by step forward. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of milk. Some have heard of milk, some have seen it, and some again have tasted it. You feel happy when you see milk. You are nourished and strengthened when you drink it. Hearing about milk, reading about milk, it's not going to strengthen you. You have to take it. You have to get nourished and strengthened by milk, you have to drink it. So, to get peace of mind, have bliss, you have to really know God intimately. Talk to God intimately, then you will get peace of mind and bliss. You will get peace of mind only when you have seen God. You will enjoy bliss and gain strength only when you have talked to Him. Shrish, you do not have time to pray to God. That's another problem. We do not have time to pray. We have got, see, worldly people have got a lot of duties. There is no time to pray. Sri Ramakrishna, to Shrish. Surrender everything at the feet of God. What else can you do? Give Him the power of attorney. Let Him do whatever He thinks best. If you rely on a great man, He will never injure you. That's one thing we always have the complaint, we don't have time. But when we say we don't have time, we mean actually we don't have time to sit down and do spiritual practices. That remembering God, to remember God, it's not that you have to sit down. You can remember God every time. Every moment of your waking life, you can remember God if you want to. If you practice, make it a habit. We can remember God. You can remember God and repeat the name of God. If it's just a matter of practice, you make it a habit, then it will happen. But if we can't do that, Sri Ramakrishna says, surrender everything at the feet of God. They say, in the morning, remember God and offer everything, whatever you're going to do today, I offer at your feet. And at night, before you go to sleep, you don't have time. So busy with the whole day, don't have time. At night, before you go to sleep, again say, whatever I have done today, I offer at your feet. Then that's enough. The example that Swami Madhavan Maharaj said about the dotted line, you have got only 2 dots, one in the morning, one at night. But still you can join those 2 dots and make it a straight line. But if you can remember in between, there will be more dots and the line will become quicker, straight line. It is no doubt necessary to practice spiritual discipline. But there are 2 kinds of aspirants. The nature of the one kind is like that of the young monkey, and the nature of the other kind is like that of the kitten. The young monkey, with great exertion, somehow clings to its mother. Likewise, there are some aspirants who think that in order to realize God, they must repeat His name a certain number of times, meditate on Him for a certain period, and practice certain amount of austerity. An aspirant of this kind makes his own effort to catch hold of God. But the kitten of itself cannot cling to its mother. It lies on the ground and cries mew mew. It leaves everything to its mother. The mother cat sometimes put it on a bed, sometimes on the roof behind a pile of wood. She carries the kitten in her mouth hither and thither. The kitten doesn't know how to cling to the mother. Likewise, there are some aspirants who cannot practice spiritual discipline by calculating about japa or the period of meditation. All that they do is cry to God with a yearning heart. God hears their cry and cannot keep Himself away. He reveals Himself to them. So, see, Sri Ramakrishna said about surrendering to God. So he is talking about two types of aspirants. Some try to realize God through their own effort, through spiritual practices, japa, meditation, and other austerities. And the other type, like the kitten, just sit in one place and cry. don't have time or don't know about many spiritual practices, but pray to God with great earnestness to reveal. And then if the prayer is really earnest, God cannot keep himself away. God will reveal himself. Just one story I'll tell you and finish. There's a story Sri Krishna said. A young child, the father was a priest and he had to go somewhere, and he asked the young child to do the offering in the shrine, in the temple. The child had the idea that you're offering the food to God, so God will come and eat the food. So the child kept the food there and prayed, "Oh, you please come and eat the food," because the child didn't know the all these the rituals of the mantra and all that. So she prayed, but the statue is not coming and eating the food. But the child really believed that God will come and eat the food. After some time, after repeatedly saying God is not coming, start crying. When father calls you, come and eat, why don't you come and eat? He cried so much that God really took the form of a person and came and had the food. So if really, earnestly, sincerely weep for God, God will reveal himself. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. Thank you.
This afternoon we have the monthly Vedanta Book Club meeting, a mini retreat from 3:30 to 6 p.m. Gayatriprana will be leading the discussion, and there'll be silent meditation and afternoon tea. Reminder that next weekend is Easter, so we will not have any discussion on Friday night, and there'll be no talk next Sunday, so a little break over Easter. And we will have the yoga class this week, and on Thursday morning from 10 a.m. And on the 9th of April, we'll have the spiritual evening, the Friday night discussion, spiritual evening on the 9th. And on the 11th, we'll have the Sunday, the 11th of April, we'll have the monthly Raja Yoga talk given by Gayatriprana. And your MailChimp monthly newsletter will be going out next week. And in there, we'll be highlighting the fact that we've got a special series of talks coming up on the Katha Upanishad. They'll be given by Pravrajika Gayatriprana. It'll be a monthly talk. And through a series of talks going up to November, she'll go through the whole of the Katha Upanishad, touching on important verses and, of course, highlighting the main messages. And there'll be time for discussion, and people will be invited to join via Zoom too, and join in the discussion. We have donation plate there, donation box up the back. And thank you to those who have joined us live on YouTube or will be looking at this later. And we'll conclude with listening to a guided meditation by revered Pravrajika Gayatriprana.
The rishis of Samaveda sing. Listen to the melodious music of the divine poet. He plays upon the flute of love. The notes soar to high heavens and reach the distant stars. They dance on the raging waves of the sea. The earth, the sea, the sky, the stars are all woven together by the soft strains of the divine music. Its vibrations echo through the corridors of time in the endless canopy of the sky. That same music is ringing through every part of our body. The divine light of cosmic intelligence, which is of golden radiance and sweet resonance, descends from its infinite abode to inspire us when we invoke its presence in our meditation. O Lord of divine light and silent peace, mayest thou accept the praises recited in silence by our hearts in the voiceless language of our yearning and love. Let us try to feel the stream of divine consciousness that is flowing gently and quietly, silently and smoothly through our veins. The light of supreme intelligence is shining in our intellect and illumining the pathway of our nerves and vital powers. The auspicious music accompanying the dance of the cosmic spheres is reverberating through our senses and organism in the celestial rhythmic flow. Awake, O sleeping beauty of my soul, the time of slumber and darkness is over. The storm and thunder of the night of ignorance and forgetfulness has passed away. The bright and glorious dawn of wisdom is appearing within the heart to lead us from triumph to triumph along the long illumined path of life. Let us tell ourselves we have reached the safe harbor of our real source, the sweet shores of perpetual purity, the quiet land of undisturbed peace, which is our real home. We had strayed away long and far into the turbulent unrealities of ephemeral pleasures and the dark whirlpools of worldly attractions. Today, in these few moments of quietness, let us try to relax, collect ourselves, and feel the presence of our inner soul. Let us try to see the limitless ocean of the blue waters of the cosmic heart, pulsating within us. Look closely. It is there. The large, expansive stretches of the blue waters of the cosmic heart. We are a part and parcel of the cosmos. So the cosmic heart, the limitless expanse of the blue waters, are there within our heart. It is resplendent with a silver radiance. See the surface of the water? Shining with a silver radiance because of the presence of divinity hidden inside the heart. Just that. We are not puny little human beings. We carry the infinite cosmic heart within us. The heart that is pulsating within us is in tune with the rhythm of the cosmic heart. Feel the expanse of infinity within and around us. Forget the limitations of the body. That is a transparent covering. We are within and without. The glittering, shining, resplendent waters of the cosmic heart are slowly pulsating, gently moving inside us and outside us. We are one with that. That is our real nature. These limitations of individuation, personalized form, our imagination. We are infinite. Just feel the flow of strength rushing through every part of the body, which can stand as a balance between the infinity inside and the infinity outside. We are revived and renewed with the tremendous energy of infinite divinity. Just let us try to feel ourselves light, not heavy, just floating in the infinite shining blue waters of cosmic dimensions. It's all still, peaceful, quiet, silent. God is silence, and in silence we can experience God. There is silence inside you. There is silence outside you. Feel the silence. Give up all limitations. We are infinite. Hare Om. Shanti. Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace.